Hello and welcome. This is Sox and Friends, your weekly source for Chicago White Sox updates, content, and breaking news, and connecting you, the White Sox fan, directly to other fans throughout Chicago and the world. This episode, we're reviewing this past week of White Sox baseball and your Sock of the Week. We're going right into All-Star break after this past week of Red Sox and A's. Let's go through that, and the White Sox received a couple more All-Stars. They also, this past Saturday, had the number one pick, drafting Roch Cholowsky out of UCLA, and traded away a past first-round pick, so we'll dig into that. But before getting into it, follow Thomas Alessio on Threads for direct game and in-the-moment updates, daily lineups, and fun facts, and Sox and Friends on Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube here for alerts for Monday episode drops. But again, let's get in the week. We talked about the previous week about really wanting to go 4-2, winning two series at home before the break. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The first series against Boston was a bad series. Offense was non-existent. Really nothing going on outside of Sam Antonacci. He had a 3-hit game. In the first game, Sox lose 8-1. But take a break here. Really fun fact is I got to throw out the first pitch in this game. So really pausing here, I just want to say thank you to the Chicago White Sox. Thank you very much to everyone involved on making that happen. And it's definitely a moment I'll always remember. And my friends who also came with me had a great time. So again, thank you to the White Sox and the full organization there. Game 2, Sox lose again, 5-0. Again, offense non-existent. And then going into Game 2, going into Game 3, Sox lose 2-1. Gets swept by the Boston Red Sox. Really, the big story here is the offense. Outside of that 8-1 game that kind of got broken open late in that game, it was Sox hitters were 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. Outside of Antonacci, who went 4 for 10 in the series, there was a whole lot of nothing. So they get swept. Boston leaves and the A's come in, and Sox really needed to end the first half on a strong note facing the A's. There's no Nick Hertz, and you have the Tigers now coming back. Cleveland is within a game or tied or 2 games back for the past couple weeks now. And they did exactly that. They came out swinging in the first game, 14-1. They beat the A's. Big story here outside of them scoring 14-1. Obviously, Tristan Peters, huge game, a cycle, first cycle since Jose Abreu. But Sean Burke, even if this game wasn't 14-1 and Sox were really hitting the ball everywhere, Sean Burke came out, and he's been great again the past month. And he was a stopper that the Sox needed. And we talked about previously the past couple weeks about Davis Martin being a stopper. And he's kind of had a rough patch here the last couple weeks. And Sean Burke has lit the torch and carried it since Davis Martin's had a rough time. And 14-1, they come back. The second game, obviously you don't score 14 every game. They win 1-0, showing that they can win in multiple ways. And then they come in on Sunday, a 9-1 win. And as you see here, 3 games, you get a sweep. You go 500 at home. You probably want to go 4-2, but 3-3, especially after getting swept with Boston, is a huge win. 2 earned runs by White Sox pitchers in the last series of the first half, 26 strikeouts in the series, and Miguel Vargas, outside of Tristan Peters, had a really good series, 5 for 12, 3 RBIs, and hit his 21st home run of the season. Great first half. We've talked about it numerous times, but you go into the standings to to end, going to All-Star break, and you're tied at first with Cleveland. They're still being followed up by Minnesota here, Detroit, and the Royals. But as you can see, Detroit gained another game in the standings. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks that the Sox needed to get some separation on them, and that's another focus coming out after the All-Star break. You have a very talented Detroit team, and they have a lot of great players. Arguably the best pitcher in the major leagues is Skubal, and if they're close enough in the standings in the division or wild card, are they going to trade Skubal? Probably not. They can get a lot for him. It'll be a rental. Detroit is coming up on their heels and coming out that lead that they have on Detroit needs to get closer to 10 games, hopefully, before the trade deadline, because that will maybe try forcing Detroit's hand to maybe get rid of Skubal and make this a 2-team race. A 3-team race going into August is going to be a rough one. But going to All-Star break, really successful first half. As we talked about, a couple of White Sox players got added to the All-Star game. Tristan Peters, right after he had that cycle in the 14-1 win, he gets added as a reserve. And then Murakami, who's been great the first half until he got hurt. He comes back. He's added as a reserve with some of the injuries that are happening in the AL. And he's also going to be a home run derby. A lot to watch for in White Sox baseball, even when they're going to be out. Not playing games up until the end of next week. So Tristan Peters, who's had a huge week, gets named All-Star, has that cycle. It would have been very easy for me to make him your Sock of the Week, as he was last week. But we've also talked about Sean Burke, and he is your Sock of the Week. Needed a stopper. I'll say it again. Coming off a really bad sweep to the Red Sox. Comes out 7 innings, 1 earned run, 9 Ks against the Athletics. And as you see so far in 2026, 6-4, 19 games. He's at 15 starts as he's done some bulk relief in a few games, a 3.41 ERA going into the All-Star break. Can't really say much about Sean Burke, especially over the last month and a half. But big news, this is a really big White Sox week outside of that sweep. Also had the number 1 pick in the draft. Roch Cholowsky is officially a Chicago White Sox and now part of their organization and their system. Last 2 seasons, UCLA, 52 home runs, 134 RBIs in 178 games. But outside of that, an elite level shortstop defensively. And this is the Sox' first number 1 pick since Harold Baines, and he was a Hall of Famer. But there's a lot of talk about who the Sox were going to take leading up to this, and as we got closer and closer, there was Emerson and there was Vaughn in Georgia Tech. I'm really happy they took Roch Cholowsky. There may have been a higher ceiling for Emerson. There may have been a lot of talk about the athleticism with Von Lackey. I think when you go back to it, you don't overthink it. He was the top guy, consensus number 1 pick of the season. He took all of that stress about being the consensus number 1 player and had another pretty good season with UCLA. He was a runner-up for the Golden Spike Award after winning it in the year previously. And when you are making a decision, we talked about in the previous episode, high school player, high school shortstop, maybe they think he's a higher ceiling, not as tested as a shortstop in college in the Big Ten. Obviously, again, not the ACC, not the SEC. But he has a track record of success. So they knew more about Roch. Uh, Great kid, and he gets taken number one. And say he doesn't lead, I think he has a higher floor than the other two, and I think that's something you do not want to say about a number one pick. But it's true. If he ends up being someone like Dansby Swanson as your floor, that's a Gold Glove level shortstop with someone who could hit 270 with 20 home runs every season throughout his career as a White Sox. And again, maybe that's not a number one Hall of Famer that you're hoping to get at that position, but that's a floor. If Dansby Swanson is your floor, this is a huge number one pick for the White Sox, and anything more than that, it's going to be a long time of a really good baseball from Roch and the White Sox. But he comes in, shortstop, another former shortstop that they drafted a couple years ago. Jacob Gonzalez was sent away, especially, and also with Brandon Iser to the Pittsburgh Pirates. In return, the White Sox got the 34th overall comp pick that from Pittsburgh and minor league reliever Jaden Woods. Coming down to it, Jacob got sent down to AAA after Murakami got taken off the injured list. And when you just go through it, there weren't at bats for him. Especially as a prospect for Jacob Gonzalez, he needed at bats, and he was playing first base. And with him and Miguel, and then with Colson Montgomery and Acuna playing well, there's nowhere really for him. And I think, as you see with the Sox system right now, there's a bunch of middle infielders, a bunch of infielders. He started going down on the pecking order in terms of like who they, one, wanted to see develop, and two, the pecking order of like where they see them in their future. So in return for someone that was a first round pick, you get a 34th overall pick who they get homie's son, shortstop, 18-year-old high school kid, and you get a minor league reliever who may help you in the future. And you can start focusing on some of these other prospects that are coming up. But as we talked about how the depth chart is in there, there's a lot of talk, and I was going back and forth on threads about Acuna and what his role in compared to Gonzalez, and like they were saying maybe DFA Acuna, which also is crazy. That even came out of people's thoughts to DFA Acuna. He's been great in June and July after a slow start. He's exactly what the Sox need as a bench guy. He can play two positions, and he's not a natural center fielder, but that has your option there in case there was an issue with Tristan. Maybe Tristan gets hurt in a game and someone needs to be thrown out there. Acuna's there for you. If Montgomery goes to third and Murakami needs a day off, Vargas plays first. He's playing exceptional well defense at shortstop. And as you see in the graphic here, he's hitting .364 in the last 30 days with OPS in the 800s while playing great defense at shortstop, stealing bases. I'm sorry, that's a great bench player and worthy of staying with the team and being able to push Gonzalez down to AAA and at one point traded to Pittsburgh. But another player that started out slow was Hicks. Wasn't throwing a lot of strikes at the beginning of the year. Had a little injury and came back. He's thrown 7 innings since coming back from the injury list, 12 strikeouts. The big thing here, outside of not giving up any runs, he's walked one guy, and that was in the game in Baltimore. And we've had enough issues with relievers not throwing strikes with Dominguez and Joe Rock, who's back in AAA. Hicks is coming back up, and he's throwing strikes. That is the most important thing for a reliever. No free passes, and he's been amazing in the last few appearances leading up to 7 innings pitched. So just keep it going because the Sox need some more options out of the bullpen. You can't always be focusing on Taylor and Newcomb because they're going to have an off day too, and you can't be throwing them in relief every single game. You need more than 2 to 3 relievers that you can count on. The week ahead, going to All-Star break. This is a short break. You have a home run derby on Monday. Again, Murakami will be competing, and I'll be giving live updates on Threads. Again, you see below Thomas Alessio on Threads, and on Tuesday, the All-Star game, we'll see Tristan Peters, Murakami, and Vargas all play, hopefully, and they'll get a day off, and they go to Toronto Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We've talked about it the last couple of episodes, and being a young team and wanting to win on the road, and you swept Toronto earlier this year, and going and starting the second half off right, winning 2 out of 3 in Toronto would be ideal, especially again with Detroit coming in hard and the Guardians just going back and forth with you. So again, thank you for joining. See you next week. I appreciate you coming in. Also remind you, follow me on Threads, Thomas Alessio, Sox and Friends on Instagram. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you after the All-Star break. Bye.